Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, get this. What if I told you there's a theory that 90% of society is being controlled by a 3,000-year-old software of slavery? Sounds like sci-fi, right? Well, today we are diving deep into the work of Karma Nayak, a thinker who has spent 18 years on a mission to decode this very system and, believe it or not, spark a digital revolution to tear it all down.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First up, we'll get to know the man behind this incredible quest, Karma Nayak. Then, we're going to investigate this so-called 3,000-year-old software that he claims is basically running our world. We'll even see how he decodes modern language to pull back the curtain on this hidden system. And then, we'll get to the really wild part, his plan for a digital uprising in 2026 and the new model of justice he wants to build from the ashes.
Okay, so first things first. What's the end game here? I mean, 18 years is a long time. Let's take a look at the mission statement itself. And there it is, laid out plain and simple. The mission is to liberate the 90% protector society. But what's really fascinating is the wording here. It's not about liberating them from a system or an ideology. No, it's from a syndicate software of slavery. That language is so specific. It frames this whole thing as a kind of ancient, deeply coded form of technological control.
So who is this protector warrior at the heart of it all? Well, the source introduces us to Karma Nayak. He's a researcher from Jharkhand, India, and he's dedicated, get this, nearly 2 decades to this one single mission. So, this isn't just some theory he cooked up over a weekend. This is presented as his absolute life's work.
Okay, and right here we get a really core concept, one that pretty much underpins everything else we're going to talk about. The source introduces this term BGVAN. Now, this is meant to represent the deep intelligence and mysteries of nature itself. Definitely keep that term in your back pocket, because protecting this natural order, that's a huge motivation for this entire movement. All right, now let's get to the real meat of it, the central conflict at the heart of this whole theory. According to the source, society isn't divided by the things we usually think of, like wealth or politics. Nope. The claim is that the real division comes from a 3,000-year-old software of control. So you're probably asking, how does this software actually work? Well, the whole theory kicks off with this really stark division. It argues that all of society, the whole thing, is split into just 2 groups. You've got a massive 90% majority, which it calls the protector society, and then a tiny 10% minority that it labels the predator syndicate. And according to the source, this 10% group maintains its control through something called the Syndicate software. Now, we're not talking about literal computer code here. Think of it more as a 3,000-year-old operating system, a system of mental, social, and economic rules all designed for one purpose, to keep the 90% enslaved. And to really help us visualize this deep divide, the source uses a really powerful metaphor. It's the or the mango tree versus the babul, the acacia tree. The represents the nurturing protector society, while the babul represents the exploitative predator syndicate. So one side is all about compassion and connection to the land, while the other is driven by war and destruction. It's a pretty stark contrast. Okay, so that's the theory, but how does it actually play out in the real world? Well, the source takes this 90-10 framework and applies it to decode the language used in a modern geopolitical commentary video. This is where it gets really interesting. The case study zeroes in on a specific video from a commentator, and it's all about his choice of words. Specifically, his use of the terms fatherland and sagabai, which means real brother, when talking about Israel. The text then poses a really simple but powerful question. Why use those specific words? What hidden ideology are they pointing to? And the analysis breaks it down into a 3-point decoding. First, it suggests a Eurasian DNA connection, basically implying that the speaker's true loyalty lies outside of India. Second, it points to a global network, that shared operating software we talked about that connects the global 10%. And finally, it describes what it calls a bunker mentality, that detached perspective of someone who's willing to advocate for war while they're sitting safely far away from the action. And this table really brings the whole analysis into sharp focus. You can see how it maps each statement from the video directly to a piece of the theory. The argument here is that these word choices aren't random at all. They're actually direct outputs from that underlying syndicate software. Okay, so after diagnosing what it sees as the absolute core problem of society, the text moves on to the solution. And it's not some vague plan. It's a solution that's centered on a very, very specific moment in time. And that moment? It's the year 2026. The source points to this year again and again.
It's the target date for a massive fundamental shift, the moment when this liberation is actually set to kick off.
So what's the plan for 2026? It's called the Digital Ulgulan. Now, Ulgulan is a powerful word. It translates to something like a great tumult or a revolution. So what we're talking about here is a digitally powered uprising, one designed specifically to overthrow that old software and bring back what the source calls natural justice. But what does natural justice even look like in practice? That brings us to the final, crucial piece of the puzzle, the new system that's designed to replace the old one, and it's called the 1090 rights model.
See, the Digital Ulgulan isn't just about tearing things down. It's also about building something new. And the ultimate goal is to build a brand new framework, this 1090 rights model. This is positioned as the absolute foundation for a whole new era of natural justice. And this is where it all leads, to a powerful call to action. The text makes one thing crystal clear: the power to protect their own rights and the power to defend nature. Remember BGVAN? That power lies squarely in the hands of the 90% themselves.
Wow, we've covered a ton of ground here, right? From a 3,000-year-old conflict all the way to a future digital revolution. If your curiosity is piqued and you want to keep exploring these ideas, well, the author provides quite a few ways for you to dive even deeper. You can actually find Karma Nayak's book right on Amazon. And we've got his email and all the social media links right here, if you want to check them out and explore this theory for yourself. You know, it really leaves us with a pretty provocative question to chew on. Is our society really running on some kind of hidden software? And if it is, maybe it's time for a system update. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.